Sounds a little odd, but we just absolutely loved it on our previous boat. And so just one door and set two that they're kind of fight for each other. And just either or closed. Either it's closed and shuts off this wardrobe, which will be about 99% of the time for us. But should you ever need it, you can close the door and have a bit more privacy if there was other people in the super salon or some noise or something like that. Anyways, you can see how this is looking. They've done a great job of making these solid rosewood radius corners, which we really like. And then the rosewood on the sides, and the door and the jam fitted in here. And you can see that they're putting a nice little like a fit on these shelves here. All the closets and all the shelves will have the same feature of a solid rosewood edge to just keep things from sliding off. And then this is where the hinges will go for the door, and it'll be a great setup. Two shelves, adjustable height shelves, and go in there to use up the space a little more efficiently. And you can get a good indication of the slope of the side of the hull as you go up and down these wardrobes here. So you can see that you really change the size or depth actually up here, and then you lose that depth as you go down. So just to be used for different stories. This one could still be a hanging locker. Here's probably how we'll use it, and have a bar going across for hangers, and have shelves here for shirts, sweaters, things like that. And then over here is a giant bureau of drawers, and then more wardrobes. All right, we've popped down into the engine room, or rather the basement below the super salon. What you're looking at here are the fuel manifolds, one set for supply, one set for return, and this is what each of these lines here are connected to one of the fuel tanks, and what it allows us to do is to choose which tank we're taking fuel out of and which tank we're putting fuel back into, either when we're running, actually not when we're running, but when we're filling the day tank, or when we're polishing the fuel, running it through our big Alfa Laval centrifuge to clean it. You take it out of one tank and put it back into either the same tank, which is what you usually do, or you could move fuel from one tank to the other, and that all happens with these valves. And they're made to be accessible quite easily from up above, just kneeling on the floor there in the super salon when that hatch gets opened up. But the new developments down here in the basement are the completion now of these battery boxes. So we have three large open bays here that you can see for that are going to be used for batteries. Actually, we're just now, having changed the battery specification a bit, we're just going to use the front two. So there's going to be 10 batteries in there and 8 batteries in here. I can talk to you more about those and what the batteries are that have recently changed. We're just going to leave this bay here, which was going to have batteries in it, but we now no longer need it. So we're going to still set it up for that and just leave it empty for now. And yeah, I'm sure we'll come up with use for it later on, perhaps. What they're doing right now then is putting in this framing that you can see down here. We've also made another change. We were going to put the batteries all the way down to the bottom of the keel there. So this is this big 25mm thick keel bar that runs down the center of the entire boat, and then those are the actual hull plates that you're looking at there. Those are 15mm thick hull plates. And we were going to put a bit of a false floor right down there in the bottom and put the batteries down there, but for reasons I'll explain more in the text in the blog, we've raised them up, and so this flange here is going to support the floor that'll get bolted in, and then the batteries sit on top of that. Even still, the batteries only come about this high, so we'll have lots of room for them. And then as you see, they're now starting to put this frame in around all of the each of the bays, and then there'll be a lid, a gasketed lid to seal these all in, and then we'll have a circulation venting system to just be able to vent the batteries. They're all vented, valve regulated batteries, so they don't really have any need for off-gassing coverage unless you had a real severe overcharging situation. So just for that emergency situation, and more so for keeping the temperature good, we're going to have a a supply air line that comes in there, goes all the way down to the bottom of fresh, cool air into these big bays, and they're connected by air together with little tiny limber holes. If you can just look carefully down there, you'll see that that's cut away so that the air can flow between these three bays. And then we'll pick it up again here at the aft end and take it out of the boat. So that natural convection of cold air coming in at the floor up there, slowly rising up and coming out of the top over here, will just give us some natural convection of the air and just keep it nicely cooled down at a good temperature. You can see over here more of those bilge lines, and you can see the aluminum bars there, which is going to be for 4 different bilge pumps that go over there. And then if you look back over here, you can see one of those bilge pumps now going in. These are Johnson diaphragm bilge pumps, which we really like, and they'll be there to just slurp out any little bits of water that happens to get in here. Again, like in the master cabin, you might have seen, we've got these margin plates, and they form this kind of a little gutter area in here, and that would be the only place where we could accumulate any kind of water, mostly from condensation, if it might get in here, because there's really not much way of water to spill. So that's the update for you from down here in the basement. Okay, so we'll give you a bit of an update down in the master cabin, where most of the work's been taking place on the interior. As you can see, the sides of the hull walls are now starting to fill up with all of the various piping, plumbing, electrical, and so on. Most of the focus these last week or two have been on the plumbing situation, as you can see, and I'll walk you through those things in a minute here, but we'll just take a quick tour. This is the front bulkhead. That's the forepeak on the other side of that. We've got the big hatch up over top of what will be the vanity sink that'll go in this area here, and then more drain and fills and hot and cold water going back here. And then this white outline you see on the floor with the chair in the middle of it, that's the bed where the king-size bed goes in. So to show you a bit more of the details, we have 2 large water tanks up here underneath the floor in the master cabin, and you're seeing here the fittings where the gauges and where the intake and inlet and out will go for the water tanks. So that's what these clear lines here are for. So split down the middle into separate tanks, and therefore 2 tanks, one on each side. And there's a supply and return for each one, hence the 4 lines, and then they all go over here underneath the bottom of the bed, up through the hull, and through a what will become a watertight penetration going through the bulkhead there into the basement, and connects up to the water maker and the rest of the water system, water pump, and so on. The other lines that you see up here, all of these ones that you see, these are 19 millimeter inside diameter, so about an inch, and or 3/4 of an inch rather, and these are for the low water bilge pump water, and this insulated EPDM insulated PPRC pipe, kind of like PVC, but that is for the hot water loop that runs throughout the entire boat and is held at a constant temperature so that there's always instant hot water at all of the taps for the sinks and for the showers. These larger diameter hoses, these are 38 millimeter ID, about inch and a half, and those are for the fills and the drains, or fills and the vents rather, for the water tanks that are in here. So all of these access ports are for the big giant water tanks. So everything underneath the floor here in the master cabin is water tank, and hence we have the large fills and vents for them. Frankly, we'll probably never use the fill lines. We only ever use water maker water to put in our tanks, so that we're guaranteed to know what the quality of the water is. But should it ever be necessary, we've got access to an ability to be able to fill the water tanks externally from dock water or something, if that need should arise. And so that's what you're seeing here with these large pipes, 1 vent, 1 fill, to go into the tanks on this side of the boat, and then over on the other side the exact same setup for filling and vents. They just run into the forepeak area, so we just open up the big forepeak hatch to access those, and they just vent into the forepeak as well. And as you've seen elsewhere in the boat, the wire trays are going in here, and that's what carries the wire along, makes it a nice system. You could just cable tie everything up to those perforations in the wire trays. They're not filled up much yet. They haven't done too much of the wiring here yet. A little bit of the black for the 24 volt DC stuff. And then again, you can see over here the EPDM insulated line, one cold, one hot, and more of the bilge pump lines for the low water bilge level. And that's all about just being able to access what we refer to as margin plates in here. And you can see how it forms essentially a little gutter area all running down the sides of all of the cabins in the boat. And that's about the only place water could collect. We don't ever expect to get any, but in real severe cold water conditions up in the Arctic or something, it's quite possible you'd get a bit of condensation over time, and we just want to be able to get rid of that, and hence the little low water bilge things. And they just all run back through here and then back through a penetration. Some of you have been asking about it. These areas, once they're all completely have all their pipes in them, this gets all filled with a very special certified expanded foam that hardens and creates a watertight barrier and seals that thing up, because this is a watertight bulkhead between the basement and this cabin. And then of course we have the stairs going up into the super salon, galley and whatnot, and we'll show you those later.